Sorry. Good evening and welcome to our first webinar of 2025. I'm Stuart Young from COMIT and I'm going to lead through today's webinar. So you will have all seen the invitation, the title, BIM, Blockchain for Smart Asset Management. Plus, we're joined by Paul, who's going to run us through the Information Management Initiative. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have spent a considerable amount of time putting this together, and I hope you enjoy it and get plenty from it. So I'm going to introduce our two presenters. But before I do, I just want to give you the opportunity to ask some questions. At the right-hand side of the page, you will have a questions box. Please don't wait for the end. As we progress, I'm sure you're thinking of questions. Please fill them in as you go. So our first presenter is Abel. Abel is an architect and senior research associate at the Bartlett Faculty of the Built Environment, UCL. Abel has extensive experience in a wide range of design typologies and scales, from product and interaction design to large-scale urban complexes, master plans, and rail projects. He has tutored architectural design and technology at the Architectural Association, the Bartlett School of Architecture, and the Cole Special, the Architecture. And I can't even see the rest of that because it's gone off the screen. ESA and Nottingham University. Also joining us today, we've got Paul Wilkinson. Paul is a technology consultant, writer, and freelance journalist with specific expertise in the UK architectural, engineering, and construction industry and the ICT sector, particularly collaboration tools, BIM, and the wider information management topics. Paul is also vice chair of NEMA, formerly the BIM Alliance, and chairs its technology group. So, first off, over to Abel.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Okay, do you want to maximize the slide, or it's okay like that? I am muted myself. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to put in presentation mode, and then we can go through the slides. So I'm unmuted here. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay, Abel. Yes. Stuart, can you hear?
Okay, got a thumbs up. People can hear me. Thank you, Pablo.
Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
So we're just fixing the slides and we'll get started. Yeah. Okay, so can you mute yourself, please? Let's test again, see if you can hear me without echo. And Stuart, at the moment, I don't see it like in presentation mode. I just see the slide. I don't see it in presentation mode, the slide. You just need to press presentation on the bottom right. Yeah, it's not doing it, so we go it like that. We proceed in like this, yeah? Then?
Can you take over?
Do you want me to present from here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will share my screen. Yeah. Can you all see this? Yeah. So it should be in presentation mode.
No, it's not going.
Okay. Share my screen. Okay, it's. I don't think it does it actually. It's not. I think you might need 2 screens.
Okay, let's just try that.
Oh, sharing. Let me try this, and that should work. Can you see this? Can you all see my screen? And if I go presentation, oh, you see full screen now, yeah?
Yeah, that's better.
Perfect. All right, and let's try. And sorry for the technical problems. Okay, so I will go through this a little bit quicker. So, Dr. Abel Maciel, I run my consultancy, Design Competition Limited, but I'm also at the Bartlett Faculty of the Built Environment at University College London. So we'll be discussing, I'll be presenting, hopefully we'll have a good discussion on my research and Construction 4.0, digital practice, distributed ledger technologies and smart legal contracts, and some considerations for smart asset creation. So a little bit more about myself. Besides design computation and the work I do at East West Rail currently, I also curate a design computation platform, designcomputation.org, and this is like a free access wiki with computational design information and papers and so on. I am the director of the Construction Blockchain Consortium. This is a consortium investigating how to use blockchain technologies in the construction sector, and I lead this from UCL, but with the industry. I'm also an academic member at UCL of a Hyperledger Foundation, Hyperledger within Linux Foundation. And Hyperledger is the branch of Linux Foundation that looks after the development of open source blockchain technologies. So at the Bartlett, I teach at the Bartlett School of Architecture, Bartlett School of Sustainable Construction, and I do some research with UCL Neuroscience. And then my research at UCL is related to design and choice, and this includes AI and machine learning, human-computer interaction, computer-supported collaborative design, digital twins and BIM, behavioral modeling and game theory, and distributed ledger technologies, including blockchains and block DAGs. And I like to operate in that intersection of urban computing and agents, like people and other agents using the city. So a bit more about design computation. I play with systems and enterprise architecture, digital prototype management, including BIM, delivery and training, digital twin engineering, smart contracts development, and generally speaking, multidisciplinary research for design innovation, so design concept development, etc. Currently, I work on the built environment, transport sectors, transport and energy sectors, and I have quite a few nice clients. You can see them on the bottom of the slide here. Some projects I had the opportunity to contribute and be BIM manager or BIM consultant includes the Apple Park, the Google campus in Mountain View, including the latest phases of the Google campus in Mountain View. Some smaller but very complex projects include the vessel in Manhattan. It's a sculpture you can climb. So I developed all the geometry for manufacturing for that project, and it's a very interesting, complex project that was designed here in London and manufactured in Milan, and we had to take piece by piece to New York. It's quite interesting, the logistics of that. And some other buildings like the Royal Theatre of Rabat by Zaha Hadid, and of course East-West Rail, where I currently am. What we learn is that BIM is becoming more complex, it's becoming higher quality, more computational, and also less risky if you develop BIM well. So a little bit about the Construction Blockchain Consortium. We started this at UCL in 2018, and we have some very good interest from the industry. So it's hosted at UCL at the Bartlett, but we have a number of institutions involved, also the UK Parliament and quite a few people from the industry. And we're interested in knowledge transfer, research and development, and education and training. We also can develop IP with our partners. And what we are discovering, and what also it's known in the public domain, is that digital practice it's critical today, especially with the advent of Gen AI and other advancements in AI in general, not just Gen AI. Systems thinking, it's very important to understand how to go about developing digital systems. So we need to consider things like process, people, and tools, systems approach to infrastructure delivery, and also consider like a model-based systems engineering, interoperability with the CAD and BIM. So in some areas, BIM seems to be ahead in terms of adopting a model-based set of processes, but there are some principles in MBSE that BIM can learn from. So we also know that we need to adopt more transparent workflows, breaking away from data silos. We need to adopt federated workflows, close coupling teams and organizations, and take advantage of these real-time feedback loops. So, and that when we are developing our roadmaps, we need to think about the long-term vision, avoid dependencies of data and digital tools, decouple the two, like treat data and the digital tools that we use of that data as separate if possible, and make sure that that data is interoperable, and focus on data quality and value, data provenance, and legacy architecture. It's often something that we need to consider, but it's very hard to deal with. So if you're talking about blockchain in the build environment, in the construction sector, but also in the transport sector, it's blockchain. It's a very useful technology for linking the design tech that we use, the geometry, specifications, simulations we develop in BIM, with the managed tech that we use in BIM as well, and extrapolate from that and start to think about fintech, low tech, and gov tech. So you can have that vertical thread connecting those different supersets of technology. And then we need to think about blockchain solutions and applications in respect to system of systems for the build environment. We have to have better governance in BIM, digital twins, and reality meshes that we develop. And blockchain represents not only blockchain, but distributed ledger technologies in general. They represent new models for a network of value. So a little bit about smart contracts, smart legal contracts. Smart legal contracts are little scripts or little programs that you can run on certain blockchains, and they can operate on private blockchains, but you see the full value of smart legal contracts when you use them on public blockchains or permissioned blockchains. So they are just different levels of access and different paradigms for applications using blockchains. And they are amazing. So you can, for example, write your will on a blockchain that will execute. And because a blockchain like Ethereum is sovereignless, and that you can trade value, trade, fiat like cryptocurrencies, you can automate the execution of your will, for example. So that's a very interesting thing. How successful it is, I'm not sure, but this is one of the lessons I had to do when I was doing my Solidity programming lessons. So it's quite, it can do a lot more than that. But you can automate legal processes because you have the provenance, immutability, and transparency of the blockchain, and you can also articulate the transfer of a value, financial value. So you can automate. They are proactive. And they are resilient because they are sovereignless. You cannot simply unplug them. They are fully auditable and they are intelligent. So you can embed AI algorithms within the smart contract. And some implications is that they are still very untested. But they offer this promise for unforeseen efficiencies in this sector, not only in the construction sector, but other sectors. And it's a foundation technology for intelligent environments like smart cities and so on, and could potentially eradicate corruption. And it represents this transparent global development. So smart contracts can be used for accountability chains and responsibility chains. You can use to create supply chains that are smart and fully traceable. You can also use it for a very robust, resilient voting system or collection of systems. And you can also have AI agents or machine learning agents verifying transactions in the blockchain, and you can see this being accounted for in the ledger. And you can also, what is interesting is that you can program cryptocurrencies to only be used in a certain way. So what we call color coins. Yeah. So you can, for example, assign a budget in your crypto wallet to be spent only in a particular way or only in a particular geographical location, and this means quite a lot. What you can do when you are financing projects. Something else is that you can connect smart contracts and create decentralized autonomous organizations. And there are quite a few examples there out there that you can search. And this is an entire topic that I would need an hour to discuss. But DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, are very exciting in the sense that they can function as a legal persona in the internet. They are completely decentralized, and they can use many smart contracts to do various things. There are quite a few examples and case studies out there. So here's an example of a smart contract. So when you compile your smart contract, you can write it in a way that it's human readable. So the one you see here, it's human readable. So you have the deployment code on the left and the plain English meaning on the right. And you can see this when you're using your smart contract in a BIM application, for example. So this is a BIM of a railway station developed by Royal Haskoning, and they were very kind to share this with me. And you have everything put together there to build this railway station. This is done in Autodesk Construction Cloud using Revit, for example. And you can see the asset information there. And I've developed together with Autodesk and also in collaboration with Bentley. But in this particular example here, it's using Autodesk Construction Cloud. I developed a plugin for Construction Cloud where you can open your cryptocurrency digital wallet, and you can start to create your requests for information and then tag objects in your BIM, in your federated BIM. And this is then placed as a smart contract in the blockchain in a way that if that model is no longer available, you still have the request for information registered in the blockchain, and that is immutable, and it cannot be deleted. So if you have the encryption key to see what is in that blockchain, you would see all the requests for information. And what is interesting here is like the way I developed this is using raycasting, they call. So you can tag an object, but you can also tag a particular part of that object, like a particular point in the object. So if you're talking about the roof, for example, it's not simply the roof object, but there's a particular point on that roof, and you can write your RFI, and that is in the blockchain. And of course, you can load this with a payment as well, because you're using a blockchain that handles cryptocurrency. So what I think it's very interesting is that we can start to think about smart assets, and we can start to think about a reality mesh modeling and take in consideration this flow of data in the blockchain that will exist from the conception of the asset all the way to the delivery and operations of the asset. So when are we considering how to engineer the requirements of those assets, it's great to use the ISO 19650, but we should consider as many standards as possible in respect to what you need for those assets, and think about how they are going to perform later on, and develop a data governance and a data strategy for that as early as possible when you start developing your BIM project. So what those things are, we know some of them, and we know that that there are gaps. So something that I'm developing at UCL at the moment is ontology, computational ontology for decentralized architecture, engineering, construction, and operations, the DICO project. And this particular ontology is being developed as something that is compliant with a top-level ontology, like the BIM4, for example. And the idea of having an ontology that complies to a top-level ontology is that when you develop some other ontology, or let's say when you progress with the development of the IFC data schema, they should interoperate seamlessly, because you comply with a top-level ontology that describes both domains. The BIM4 can describe anything in the universe, for example. It's a very small ontology, but it's very good at making sure that when you use a particular top-level term, that top-level term has the same meaning in all the different ontologies. And we're developing this in two phases. The first phase is the ontology itself. I'm developing this with Northumbria University, with a professor over there. And then the second phase will be using the ontology to modulate AI applications. So this is yet to come, and we'll see. This is very useful because then you avoid hallucinations and other distortions from AI, because the terms you are using are consistent across a number of knowledge domains. So if you want to know more about design computation, I'm at the Shard. There is a website and there is an email there, or contact me directly via LinkedIn. For the Construction Blockchain Consortium, we are at UCL in 22 Gordon Street. There is also a website, constructionblockchain.org, or just send me an email to admin@constructionblockchain.org. And subscribe to our newsletter and to our mailing list, because we run a conference every year, and the conference is international. So last year it was here in London, the previous year was in Hong Kong. This year is probably going to be in London again, or somewhere in Europe. So if you subscribe, then we can keep you posted. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abel. Okay. Just bear with me a second. So, Paul,
I'm ready to share if you want me to. You just need to make me a sharer.
yes, just one second. Okay, Paul, over to you.
I'm just looking at, get my applications open. I'll share my screen. It's the easiest way. Can you see my screen?
Certainly we-
Not yet.
Let me just. Right. Okay.
Yes. Just need to make it full screen. There we are. Brilliant.
Full screen. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you, BIM4 for inviting me to talk to you about the Information Management Initiative. What I wanted to do before I launch into the Information Management Initiative itself is just give a little bit of background, because some of you may not be aware that the UK BIM Alliance changed its name to NEMA in October 2022, so just over 2 years ago. One of the reasons for changing was a concept, was the sense that BIM was just being seen in a very narrow sense as 3D design, rather than the much more complex and all-embracing paradigm that Abel's been talking about as well. So NEMA as a name incorporates the Greek word for thread, which was kind of convenient and topical for us. But when we were launching the brand, we were trying also to make some clear statements. So one of the things that we were keen to address was the element of trust and quality in data. And with trusted quality data, great things can happen. The other key message that we've projected forward is that we are all information managers now. Every individual involved in delivering projects is either a consumer or a creator of information in some way, shape or form. Even right down to operatives, they need information to undertake their tasks. When their tasks are completed, potentially there's information about those tasks that can be captured in the model, in an information management repository, and used for future operational and operation and maintenance purposes. It was also clear that BIM was just part of a much bigger set of information management challenges. We've talked a little bit already about blockchain, which I could add as a blob on this particular diagram. But information management is at the very heart of a lot of other industry buzzwords: digital twins, smart buildings, prop tech, the Internet of Things, robotics, and so forth. But at the same time, that was also a driver for the establishment of the Information Management Initiative. So I will launch into that by saying, essentially, this is a way forward towards better information management. And it was looking at refreshing the approach to mandates that we've had in the industry over the past 10 years. It's a joint initiative between NEMA and the Construction Leadership Council, which is the main interface between industry organisations and the UK government. And what it's aiming to do ultimately is build upon the work that's been done in the past in relation to previous mandates. We had the BIM Level 2 mandate that came into effect in the UK from April 2016. That mandate was restated and expanded upon in an information management mandate that was included in the TIP Roadmap to 2030 in Annex B, and is also endorsed in the Construction Playbook. The roadmap and the playbook are essentially the UK government's construction strategy documents. So they put BIM right at the core of delivery of future good industry practice. But the issue that we had with both the BIM mandate in some respects, but particularly with the information management mandate, well, it was never formally mandated. It was only focused on information, not the broadest topic of data and information. It didn't cover all phases of the built and managed environment through to end of life and potential circular economy reuse of data and information. there was no clear statement articulating the value and benefits that the mandate would achieve. In many instances, it didn't provide role-specific guidance to the end user about how they might be able to benefit from using information or data. And fundamentally, we are still, despite more than 15 years of pushing BIM in the UK, we're still in a very early phase of digital adoption in many aspects of our work. So the proposed solution from a working group that came together in 2023 was to look to create this information management initiative. The draft vision statement is there. It's about improving collaboration, efficiency, safety and sustainability, meeting the needs of society, business and the environment. And the focus is very much about digital integration of data information across the whole life cycle of the built and managed environment. So the work started, as I said, just over a year ago. There was an intensive period during the first phase of industry stakeholder engagement, development of the approach, and the creation of what was initially a high-level implementation plan. And from November the 7th, we've launched a communications campaign, and we're still in this process of onboarding organisations, whilst refreshing at the moment the steering group and the task group to gear us up for phases 2 to 4, which will take us through to June 2030. This is a long-term change management programme. It's not about an overnight fix. It's not about mandating any particular particular technologies. It's a broader approach to information and data, and it's geared at helping organisations plan their processes forward in a way that suits them. So we're building off the developments to date and looking to enable future innovation based on good practices that have been developed so far. At the core is a directive. And the directive here is in the sense not of a mandate at the moment, but it's a direction of travel, that the industry will lead the way in building momentum to the point that the government will feel that it can issue a new mandate that can then be enacted potentially through procurement and in the longer term potentially also through regulation and legislation. But that is obviously some years into the future. The intention of the overall approach is that it will be supported by a growing ecosystem of standards, guidance, tools, case studies and training, including items that were developed through NEMA's professional services businesses, including codes of practice on interoperability, information management platform thinking, and some of the technologies that Abel was talking about. At the core of the approach are some principles and rules. These will be tailored to groups across the industry and provide some clear guardrails to help them fulfill the outcomes and obligations. So, for example, the code of practice on interoperability is based around a set of principles and is tailored to technology providers. We'll be looking to develop similar sets of standards, guidance and tools for other use cases, for other roles and personas within the sector. So, in a very simple way, there is a kind of 4-step process. We're currently in the onboarding phase. So we have a set of very straightforward, succinctly written, overarching principles. These encourage people to sign up to a sector-wide directive in the second stage as they start to plan and mobilise themselves. And we've outlined the purpose, people, process and data and information principles that organisations should consider before they issue their own organisational mandate. We have some overarching rules for that mandate, but then how they are specifically applied and expanded within each organisation is obviously down to the organisation itself. Some organisations are well advanced in their digital adoption. Some are probably in a very early stage, or in some instances maybe yet to start. But clearly, this is the opportunity for them to customise their mandate to suit where they are on the long-term journey. And then it's about following relevant rules and methodologies that will be in what will become the Information Management Initiative framework. We have the UK BIM framework at the moment. That will be expanded to incorporate a much wider set of guidance extending beyond BIM, but will reflect a lot of the principles around ISO 19650 and other related standards around the standards and guidance ecosystem. So the launch takes us through, as I mentioned, to 2030. What we're looking to do is reach the stage at which the industry, the sector, is able to specify, procure, deliver, store and maintain data information it needs for optimal whole life management and use of its assets. So we're at the stage in looking at, we're in stage one, phase one, foundation and early engagement. We've got 3 further phases which are on the screen for you now. But you can see here, we're at the process at the moment of 5 different strands of work, setting up a framework, looking forward to industry monitoring in phase 2, engaging government and legal and regulatory legal organisations and regulators in creating the opportunity eventually for a government mandate in phase 3, identifying and engaging key sponsors and supporters to fund the initiative going forward, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But also we're creating some governance processes and setting in place in due course some pilot programs and flagship projects which will expand the early adopters as part of phase 3. And the ongoing development of the UK BIM framework will see it rebranded as the IMI framework as we move through these phases and we consult with industry and communicate throughout the implementation phase. The benefits from all of this, there are some clear financial benefits that accrue from better information management. The KPMG Atkins report in 2021 estimated potential savings of a 5-fold benefit for every £1 invested in good information management. We've seen from the work on the Golden Thread, the Building Safety Act, that adopting good practices gives an opportunity to improve safety and enhance the competence and regulatory compliance of an industry sector. That it also can help streamline communication, and from that streamlined communication you're obviously in a position to improve process efficiency and standardize practices in a way that wouldn't happen unless there was some guidance in place and some direction of travel indicated through regulations and other means. But what we're also looking to do is enhance the transparency of the processes, enable organisations to undertake much more informed and timely decision making, and ultimately it's about reducing risk for organisations involved at all stages in the life cycle of built assets. So I've just put, to enlarge on some of these things, here are the step 2 principles. You can see the purposes, talking about whole sector and whole life approaches, being purposeful, focusing on assets. In terms of people, it's about upskilling and accountability. In terms of business functions, it's having a common and consistent approach across an organisation and ensuring that data and information is interoperable. We're talking about digital transformation, shifting progressively from where we are now to a much more data and information centric approach. and having a consistent data and information architecture for businesses that also interfaces with organizations with whom they do business. And data and information governance, information flows, the development of a single truth so that we avoid duplication of needless duplication of information, and ensuring that information is accessible. One of the principles we developed in doing the work on interoperability in the last couple of years was an approach based on FAIR principles: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So we're looking to move those principles into the IMI so that information and data can be shared independently of the technology used to create used to create them. The organizational level mandate gets an organization to think about building on its existing capability and moving forward within a stated time frame to a stated level of improvement. It will be about upskilling and training its people. Organizations will be encouraging their people to follow relevant rules for their specific activities. Organizations should be putting in place processes to encourage and monitor their levels of compliance, and sharing their progress also towards not just achieving their internal mandate, but also potentially sharing the experiences and helping to converge to a common approach across the sector so that the whole industry makes appropriate progress forward, and that the overall IMI framework is improved as well. As I mentioned, we've been looking to extend awareness, interest and adoption of the Information Management Initiative, and with the CLC we have been seeking founding sponsors and supporters from across the sector. So the founding sponsors will be the initial champions helping to fund further development and the direction of the initiative, and building some of its supporting framework. This is an opportunity for organisations to be recognised as industry leaders in digital transformation, and we're looking obviously to work with them as partners to promote them at events and in supporting materials. We're also looking for other organisations prepared to commit to the IMI and encourage adoption of its principles, and to push adoption of its principles not just within their own organisations but potentially with their supply chains and with other collaborators with whom they do business. The early sponsors and supporters include consultancy organisations, we have trade bodies, technology businesses, some of the BIM4 water communities, membership organisations including the Chartered Institution of Civil Engineering Surveyors, trade bodies like the Construction Products Association and BEMA, and looking at consultancy organisations including Atkins Realis, Ramsey and Chalmers, and a specialist demolition contractor like McGee. So a very broad range of early sponsors and supporters. I will stop there. I'll leave that on the screen for a moment just so you can see where to get more information. At the moment, the IMI is hosted through the NEMA website, so you can get more information about the IMI at wearenema.im/IMI. And if you need to contact me for more information or to follow up, please email me at the address on the screen now. Thank you very much. Back to you, Stuart.
Thank you very much, Paul.
I'll come off.
Okay,
Right.
Can you see my screen?
Not at the moment, just got me on the screen. Yep, can see your screen, Stuart.
Okie dokie, so question time.
Hello. Yeah, questions?
Active camera.
Activate camera.
We have a whole bunch of questions.
So I did answer some of them.
I'm going to start at the bottom. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
So, question from David. I'm getting some feedback from somebody.
David.
Could you mute your camera? Mute your microphone, rather. How widely are smart legal contracts used in the UK and the rest of the world at this time?
Right. So no, that's not very well adopted in the UK or worldwide, at least not in construction and in rail. But it is somehow more adopted in finance, in fintech in general. They need to be tested extensively in other industries. So there is a difference between a smart contract and a smart legal contract. So let's say when you buy a book in Amazon, that is a smart contract. When you try to run a legal contract in the blockchain, that's a smart legal contract. David, does this answer your question? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Next question. What are the security challenges with integrating AI and other technologies into blockchain? Abel, please.
So I did answer that, I believe, as well. So this depends significantly on the use case and the data architecture for your solution, right? So blockchains can be notoriously slow, depending on what the applications are. There are many security challenges, but it depends exactly what you are doing. You know, AI is a very big cover term, blockchain as well. There are lots of things that happen underneath those two things, and how you put them together will represent different security challenges.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say, for example, don't try to use blockchain as a database. That would not work, especially if you're talking about a blockchain like Bitcoin or Ethereum. That would not work, or it would work, but it would break very frequently. And also, don't do silly things like give your encryption key to people or flashing your QR code access for your digital wallet on a CCTV camera or something like that, because then like somebody did this on a TV show in the US and he lost, I think, $30 million. So don't do that. Yeah. So there are many challenges there.
Okay. Thank you, Abel. So we've got an undocumented feature here, and I'm going to share it with you. Abel very kindly has been through the questions and has written some replies, and I'm not sure whether you can actually see those at the other end, but let me ask you the next one.
Okay.
Are you considering incorporating other ontologies such as NRM and Uniclass? Thank you to Katie for asking that question. And Abel, your reply?
Yeah. No. Because the ontology is already created. So I don't need to incorporate in yet another ontology. So, but I need to create interoperability between the two ontologies. And if Uniclass is developed based on a top-level ontology that is standardized, then the DICO ontology and the Uniclass ontology would seamlessly interoperate. So I wouldn't remake what is already made. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to ask Paul a question this time. Do you think there is an underpinning ethical philosophy to information management? Paul.
Ethical philosophy? Difficult to answer that one. I think from my perspective, what we are looking to achieve with the information management initiative is a much more standardized approach that is more open and accessible to all participants in the industry. If we're talking in terms of best endeavors, an ethical approach here should be one in which an element of trust is built into the process in a way in which at the moment often organizations do not trust one another, are not willing to collaborate and put barriers in the way of good information management practice. By creating more standardized approaches that people can feel are reliable and robust, I think we do approach hopefully an industry situation in which information flows much more freely and also maintains higher levels of quality of data, reliability of data, such that we are also in a position to furnish the end users of our built assets with enhanced information about not just the physical assets, but also the operation of those assets, so that we can begin to build open data systems that support, for example, the passengers using transport undertakings or the consumers of some of our other utilities, such as water, electricity, gas, and so forth, in a way that at the moment we're not always able to do.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Just stay there a second, because I have another question for you. Thank you to Ian for this one. We got some feedback. Okay. So, with the chronic shortage of skills in the market, are there plans to include an educational program, Paul?
I did put, upskilling is very key to this. And to support the upskilling, you obviously need a body of knowledge. So the IMI framework is intended as part of that body of knowledge. It will bring together existing resources we have, like the UK BIM framework, which is a free resource to use, incorporates the standards, but also a wealth of guidance around those standards. And the intention is to build out from those standards and guidance to include more case study material, toolkits, codes of practice, and other resources that organizations can adopt and use. One of the things that we've been very keen to do within NEMA is to make this information as freely available as possible and put it in forms that are not constrained by copyright or seen as intellectual property, so that we can open source the knowledge that the industry has and help individuals find the information they need, and also work with training organizations to furnish them with a lot of that information so they can move the industry forward and provide appropriate certification and accreditation schemes that reward those people who take on the learning opportunities provided.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So I'm going to come back to Abel now. How can smart contracts be implemented in rail projects which are normally expected in 4 to 5 years? I think I've read that correctly. And thank you to Pankaj for that one from WSP. Abel.
How they can be implemented? Well, okay, they need to be considered within your digital engineering strategy. And one thing that I've learned from other industries is that when we start to use smart legal contracts, there are lots of old models, for example, old project financing models or old construction contracts that exist today, that many things in that existing document or strategy or process becomes redundant, or they become redundant. So so when you're considering this in your digital engineering strategy, just be aware that if you can innovate and optimize and streamline processes because of the very advent of the smart legal contract, please do that. But also please do test your smart contracts and make sure that they are resilient, because there are lots of case studies out there showing that when they fail, they really fail, and they can be quite an epic fail.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Annabelle, and this is a general question to Paul. How have NEMA's initiatives been received by the industry? Has the feedback been mostly positive?
The feedback on the information management initiative has been very positive. After the launch on the 7th of November, which was at an online conference, we then went to Manchester and presented some of the same material to a live audience, and we had very strong interest from that audience, with several well-known tier 1 contractors coming up to us afterwards and asking how could they play a part in pushing the industry forward, whilst also improving their own internal systems. Certainly one contractor said they were contemplating a digital transformation program of their own, but when they saw that there was potentially a sector-wide initiative, they felt that it would be much better to buy into one that was sector-wide and be part of that bigger initiative rather than trying to do something unilaterally. The more organisations that follow a common path, I think will be it will help the industry be much stronger for having a consistent approach, rather than individual organisations trying to create their own digital transformation strategies that are going off in different directions. So an alignment of approach here is probably the most useful thing that the initiative can help achieve.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you. I'm conscious of time. We've got 3 minutes left, and we've still got a number of questions. But I'll just ask this question that came in from Fran Raybook. Assuming that humans, this one's aimed at Abel, I believe, but Paul, you can comment as well. Assuming that humans are an asset in the life cycle of construction, what role and data should be considered when tracking the skill set of individuals of the blockchain? Abel.
Okay, I think first you need to consider if you want to put this in the blockchain. So if you do, then you need to be quite careful to respect current legislation and future legislation, if you can predict that. And the role would be the role of a human being. Okay, we might be an asset on the life cycle of a building, but we are still human beings. So it comes in one package. You don't stop being a human being just because you are an asset for a building in a smart contract in the blockchain.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to add to that. I think there's also an opportunity to look at humans, not just to think in terms of them as end users of built assets, and the information that is created being potentially reused by, for example, the residents of a high-rise block, or the workers in a high-rise building, or the passengers on a rail system. This is the opportunity for them simply to have easy access to those services and to information about those assets in a way that they don't currently have, and make better use of the facilities that they have at their disposal.
Thank you, Paul.
In respect to
Okay,
blockchain
I'm
technologies,
going to wrap things up. The final word. Would anyone, Abel, anything else?
So I start to lecture at MIT this year. I'll be there for some, and that's really great. And in MIT, blockchain is a dirty word. You don't use the word blockchain because it's always associated with cryptocurrencies and some dodgy transactions and things like that. But the reality is that the technology really works. The technology is evolving, and even though it's not in the kind of in the hype curve, the Gartner hype curve anymore, this is something really interesting because we are navigating towards a period of adoption. So if you have an interest in all of this, I would ask you to subscribe on the website so I can keep you posted.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Abel. Just to close out. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes. Only in part. From my side, just to close out, I would simply say look to sponsor or support the Information Management Initiative. We would ideally like C-suite level buy-in to help so that the leaders push this initiative forward. It shouldn't be seen as something that is just done by the techies in the company. It should be seen as a business imperative for the organisation to deliver industry improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so thank you very much to both of our presenters, Paul and Abel. We will present the recording as soon as it's downloaded, so I would assume that'll be by tomorrow. For those that are looking for CPD certificates, they will be made available. You get your final email thanking you for attending. And on the social media front, if you haven't already done so, please follow us through LinkedIn, and that is our website address underneath. So until next time, thank you very much. Thanks to our presenters and everybody else that's joined us. Thank you.
Thank you.